It was a chilly October evening in New York City, and the grand ballroom of the prestigious Waldorf Astoria Hotel was bustling with activity. The event was one of the year's most exclusive networking gatherings for tech innovators and business moguls. The room was filled with the hum of high-stakes conversations, the clink of champagne glasses, and the occasional outburst of laughter. Among the attendees was Barron Trump, standing tall at 18 years old, exuding an understated elegance that set him apart. Though he wasn't one to flaunt his family name, Barron had garnered attention in his own right. He'd recently launched a tech startup focused on sustainable AI solutions, earning him a spot at the event alongside industry leaders. Barron had come to network, pitch his ideas, and learn from those who had already made their mark in the business world. Dressed in a sharp navy suit, he moved through the crowd with a calm confidence. But beneath the composed exterior, Barron felt the weight of expectations. He knew people whispered about him. Some doubted his abilities, chalking up his success to his last name. It didn't bother him much. He was used to proving people wrong. As the evening progressed, Barron found himself near the hors d'oeuvres table, scanning the room for someone who looked approachable. His eyes landed on a man in his mid-50s, dressed in a simple gray suit that seemed slightly out of place among the sea of tailored designer wear. The man had a scruffy beard, thick glasses, and an air of humility that intrigued Barron. He looked like he didn't belong, an attendee who might have snuck in or a worker who'd wandered into the wrong section. Barron decided to approach him. He extended his hand and introduced himself. "Hi, I'm Barron. Nice to meet you." The man looked up from the plate of shrimp he was holding and raised an eyebrow. "Barron Trump, huh?" he said, his tone carrying a hint of disdain. Barron nodded politely, used to the reactions his name often elicited. "Yes. And you are?" The man hesitated for a moment, then smirked. "Just call me Dave," he said. "No fancy titles. I'm just here to observe." There was something dismissive in the way Dave said it that caught Barron off guard. But he chose to brush it off. "Well, Dave, what do you think of the event so far?" Dave let out a dry chuckle. "Overrated, just like most of the people here," he said, glancing around the room. A bunch of rich kids playing entrepreneur, acting like they're changing the world. The words stung, though Barron kept his composure. "I can't speak for everyone," he replied evenly, "but I believe some of us are genuinely trying to make a difference." Dave snorted. "Oh sure. Let me guess, your difference involves spending your dad's money on some half-baked app idea?" Barron froze for a moment, caught between surprise and indignation. He took a deep breath, reminding himself not to let his temper get the better of him. "Actually," he said, his voice calm but firm, "my startup is self-funded, and we're working on AI models to reduce energy consumption in data centers. It's something I'm passionate about because the environmental impact of tech is a growing problem." Dave's expression didn't change much. He popped a shrimp into his mouth and chewed slowly before responding. "Sounds like a nice PR pitch," he said. "But let me give you some free advice, kid. Ideas are cheap. Execution is everything. And from where I'm standing, you don't look like someone who's had to hustle a day in his life." Barron felt his jaw tighten. "I appreciate the advice," he said, his tone laced with subtle sarcasm. "Though I'd like to think that judging someone you just met doesn't count as execution either." Dave chuckled, clearly amused by the retort. "Touché," he said. "But here's the thing, you're not going to make it far in this world if you can't handle a little criticism." The conversation was interrupted by an announcement from the stage. The event's host took the microphone, inviting everyone to gather for the keynote speech. Barron gave Dave a curt nod and walked away, feeling a mix of frustration and curiosity. Who was this man, and why was he so hostile? As the crowd settled, Barron took a seat near the back, his mind still preoccupied with the interaction. The lights dimmed, and the host introduced the evening's keynote speaker. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome one of the brightest minds in tech, the founder and CEO of Synertech, David Prescott." Barron's head snapped up in disbelief as Dave, now David, walked onto the stage. The scruffy man in the gray suit wasn't just some disgruntled attendee, he was a tech industry titan, known for his groundbreaking work in renewable energy and his no-nonsense approach to business. As David began his speech, Barron couldn't help but feel a twinge of embarrassment. He had been dismissed by someone whose achievements he deeply admired, someone who clearly wasn't impressed by Barron's last name or polite demeanor. David's speech was captivating. He spoke about the importance of innovation with integrity, the need for entrepreneurs to focus on long-term impact rather than short-term gains, and the value of resilience in the face of failure. Despite his earlier annoyance, Barron found himself nodding along, inspired by the message. But one line in particular struck a chord. The true test of character isn't how you handle success, it's how you handle rejection and criticism. If you let it break you, you weren't cut out for this in the first place. Barron couldn't help but feel that David's words were directed at him. After the speech, there was a Q&A session. Barron hesitated, unsure if he should speak up. But something inside him, perhaps a mix of pride and determination, pushed him to raise his hand. When he was handed the microphone, Barron stood and addressed David directly. "Mr. Prescott, thank you for your inspiring words. Earlier this evening, we had a brief conversation, and I couldn't help but feel that you were testing me. Was that intentional?" The room grew quiet, all eyes turning to David. He smiled, clearly amused by the question. "You're sharp, I'll give you that," he said. "Yes, I was testing you. I wanted to see how you'd react under pressure, how you'd handle being underestimated." Barron nodded, appreciating the honesty. "And? How did I do?" David's smile widened. "Better than I expected. You didn't lose your cool, and you stood your ground. That's a good start." The exchange drew murmurs of approval from the audience, and Barron felt a surge of confidence. After the Q&A, David approached him, extending a hand. "You've got potential, kid," he said. "But potential means nothing without grit. If you're serious about your startup, show me what you're made of." Barron shook his hand, feeling a newfound sense of determination. "I will," he said. In the weeks that followed, Barron poured himself into his work, fueled by David's challenge. He refined his pitch, expanded his network, and worked tirelessly to prove that he was more than just a name. Eventually, Barron's startup caught the attention of investors, including David himself. Their initial interaction, though rocky, became the foundation for a mentorship that would shape Barron's career. And so, what began as an insult turned into an opportunity, a lesson in humility, resilience, and the power of persistence. Barron Trump, once underestimated, had shown that he could rise to the occasion, earning the respect of even the toughest critics. The story of that evening became a favorite anecdote in the tech world, a reminder that sometimes the most valuable lessons come from the most unexpected encounters.